Hey everybody, welcome to PC Perspective. We are here on the launch day of a brand new graphics card, brand new GPU, we'll say, with Tom Peterson from Nvidia. Obviously, everybody knows and loves you, Tom. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for coming. Great to be here.
So today is the launch of the.
Always good to see you.
Hey,
always good to see you.
Let's not break any of the equipment before we get started. Today is the launch day of the GeForce GTX TITAN.
It is
an unnumbered graphics card.
It's got a good name though. GTX TITAN.
Yeah, you're not going to do it in a special voice.
I feel like it'll be recorded.
Oh, it's definitely being recorded.
And then I'll just be hearing it forever. So now I'm just going to say TITAN.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So we were here for the 680 launch. We were here for the 690 launch. We were here for the 660 Ti launch. Yep. This is a completely different GPU.
It is.
All of those were derivatives of GK104.
Yep.
Essentially. This is GK110.
It is GK110.
We've got it. If we zoom in here, we've got a GTX TITAN running here on our test bed.
Nice.
This is the one system. It's live. Everything we do is live. All the demos we do are live. All the overclocking we do is live. So
it's like watching NASCAR. Anything could happen. Anything could happen.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
But this is actually our fastest GPU we've ever built. It's built on the GK110 silicon. It's 28 nanometer, and it's about as big a chip as you can build in 28 nanometer. So it is about as big. It's just about as big, yeah. But it is the fastest, and it's the highest performance. Gives you a great experience, and we've got a lot of new features with something we're calling GPU Boost 2, which we'll go through and demo a little.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to do a few slides and then we'll do some demos and whatever? Or do you,
we're going to intersperse some informational slides. We're going to intersperse demonstrations, performance demonstrations. We're going to do questions. We'll
have a heated debate.
If you're in the chat, we have some moderators that are hoping to try to gather some good questions in there, but there's a lot of people in there, so it's sometimes rough. If you have one, if you go to PCPro.com right now, there should be a post. The very top post will be discussing this live stream.
Right.
And if you leave a comment on that thread, I'll have a better chance of getting to it.
Or
you don't have to register.
Or you could just call Ryan's personal phone number,
which is 555.
555. Call me.
Yeah.
Don't call me.
Please don't call me. I've had people do that many times. They look up my phone number from like a Who Is. From a domain.
And they get the right phone number.
It's the worst. Not anymore. No, that's all changed now.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's all. I enabled all that privacy stuff.
Good. All right. So shall we?
Let's get started.
All right. So first of all, where did the name TITAN come from? So TITAN is actually the name of a supercomputer, which actually is the fastest supercomputer in the world right now, and that uses the GK110 die. It's got about 20,000 of them in this supercomputer, and it's the fastest in the world. So what we did is we took that die, and now we're bringing it to the consumer. So it's got 2,688 CUDA cores. It runs at 4.5 teraflops, and it's got 7.1 billion transistors. So it's literally, it's a big, massive, huge performance device.
Compared to GK104, what is the transistor count at? 3.5? I
think it is. I think it's about half, or it's about double. Roughly.
So you're getting twice as many transistors, not quite twice as many shaders, CUDA cores, but that's because of some of the double precision stuff that's added in there, the wider memory bus.
It's actually just a different architecture, right? So it's tuned for sort of different applications. It includes things like compute. So you're not going to get like take 104 and double it up, because this device actually has multiple purposes and multiple homes.
Okay.
And so it's not purely optimized like 104 was for the desktop.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a massive performance die. This just gives you a little sense of comparative. Comparing it to Intel's top of the line, this is Core i7-3960X, which is 2.3 billion transistors, and compared to ours. And gigaflops is actually quite a bit less, and you can tell the cores are quite a bit different. It does a different thing, but the way to think about it is they're both at the top of the market, and they both give you, sort of that premium experience. When we did TITAN, we built a board to match that silicon. So it's got our highest performance board. Of course, it supports 3-way SLI. It even supports 4-way SLI. So I saw today a bunch of folks are using TITAN to break some world records. So far I've seen Vince Kingpin with EVGA breaking the current 3D Mark stuff. So that's really exciting. I think there's going to be more from that. It also has 6 gigabytes and a 384-bit GDDR5 interface, and it's running at 6 gigabits per link.
Right. So That's a huge jump in frame buffer. We're going from 2 gigs on the GTX 680
Yep.
to 6 gig. Is there a reason why it wasn't 4? Like, why the jump straight ahead?
You know, the way I look at it is that we can get 6 gig on there easily. It's built for a different, purpose, but now the frame buffer interfaces are there. So we can guarantee that when you're running surround, you just never run out of frame buffer. And that's it's sort of the premium idea.
Is it just like 1 gig per 64-bit channel type
the way to
of thing?
think about it, yeah. And again, it's just built for the best. It's not really holding any expenses back. It's got our best ID, it's got our best GPU, it's got our best fan control, and it's actually got our biggest frame buffer. So think about it as, we're going for it.
There's a lot of hardware there.
It's massive. It's massive. Yeah. But we also put our best thermals on it because it's not just about massive performance, of course. You want to have great acoustics. So it's got a vapor chamber with high efficiency dissipation. That vapor chamber actually goes across the entire surface of the die. And we have fin stacks that go across the entire board. But the best part about this is that we're doing advanced fan control that keeps this card extremely quiet and under control even when we're running the most demanding games.
How similar is this cooling solution to what is on the 690?
It's very similar. The big difference is that the fin stack is sort of towards the front and the fan is in the back. So 690 actually blows in both directions, and this device, Titan, blows from the rear and blows out the front. So the big thing about that, though, is it makes it a better solution for many small form factor designs. And we'll give you a little bit of data that tells you, even though the performance is much higher, the acoustics are actually better than, in some cases, even 680.
So you're not blowing half the heat back into the system for smaller chassis.
Exactly. It's a very good solution to balance acoustics and performance.
Okay.
So there we go. So really all it is taken together is performance and elegance. It's got this brushed aluminum surface. It's got the nice see-through chamber so you can see the fin stack.
Yeah, you can see it here.
Oh, you can see it here. Sorry,
in the close-up. Yeah,
close-up.
A little nicer there.
Beautiful. It's got our ID that looks very similar to the 690.
Is it built on the same materials as the 690?
Mostly it is. I mean, this was magnesium on the 690, and it's not actually solid magnesium on Titan, but everything else is exactly the same materials. This cool little LED does work. It worked on 690, but now we've improved the software again to take even more advantage of that little LED. But the way to think about it is we're not really holding back anything on either the expenses of the card, the expenses of ID. We're building a absolute boutique device.
It's just like the 690 was. It is impressive looking and to hold it, right? It feels like a high-end product.
It is.
And it seems kind of weird maybe to talk about for it's a graphics card that's going inside a computer. But when we talk about flagship products and pricing and all that kind of stuff, it kind of makes sense.
You're talking to a graphics guy. So this, I would sleep with this. I would sleep. Well, I mean,
next to
right?
This. No, yeah,
I would sleep next to this. Yes.
Idea.
All right.
Good clarification.
But it's not for sleeping with. It's actually to run games. And as a matter of fact, you can run Crysis 3 like just crazy. You can max everything out 5760 by 1080 for 3-way. And you can get 48 frames per second on very high settings.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Boom.
If we switch to the slide again on the video stream, this little SLI bridge there, I see it in a lot of pictures. I see it in a lot of PR things. And where can I get that?
That is an excellent question, Ryan, and thank you for bringing that up right away. I cannot comment on whether or not that is indeed coming to market very soon. It's not available anywhere right now, but it is super cool. And that LED
does it have a light on it?
It does have a light on it, yeah. Which is also accessible through our software APIs, just like these lights are. So you can imagine, syncopated or whatever. It's just.
I'm thinking for Christmas time, you sync it up with some carols.
But the way I really like to think about it is some memory does this now, but now with the lighting, you can actually make it pulse differently based on the activity. So if your GPU is getting warm or cold, it'll glow, and then utilization again as you get busier, your GPUs will just be going a little bit more. I think it can be fun.
Cool.
But it's really all about performance. And when you look at surround gaming, Titan really does crush anything out there. This is showing GTX 690 quad versus GTX Titan 3-way. That's actually comparing the two highest performance systems that are available today. So 690 I know is 4 104s, and this is showing you 3 Titans. And you can see on things like Crysis 3 and Max Payne 3, Far Cry 3, you get nice big bumps when you're comparing to 690. In other games, there's kind of a mix. So Titan and 690, Titan is clearly not always going to win against 690, but it is that just massive performance for surround
That's probably going to be the main question that consumers have
Right.
after we go through all this is why have both cars? We can address that a little bit later, but it's interesting to see. So this is probably where we see these big increases. Is that the frame buffer at work?
A lot of it's frame buffer. I mean, but some games are just, they just run better if you're less scaling. Because if you think about it, with 104, it's more GPUs.
Right, you've got 4 GPUs.
4 GPUs working together, and now having 3 with Titan, you can actually get over some of those CPU bottlenecks a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a very, very high performance, top of the line device. Now, what you normally don't associate with our highest end performance cars is amazing acoustics, of course, until 690. But this is showing you some comparative data. This is taking you a stock 7970 Crossfire device running 3-way. And I'm not going to beat on AMD except for this one slide. So there's 61 dB compared to 680 3-way SLI. Now 680 3-way SLI is pretty well behaved at 43 dB. But again, 61 to 43, what's that, about 8 dB? And dB is roughly doubling perception every 3 dB. So this is roughly a quarter of the intensity of a 3-way. And Titan 3-way is actually running at about 48 dB. So it's again a little bit more than half as quiet as a 680 3-way system.
Now, in my testing, I won't comment on that specifically.
Well, you
either.
gotta wait till you really get all the data.
Well, yeah, it's the quietest. It's quieter than a single 680. Right, and SLI was quieter than a single 680, actually, as well.
Isn't that interesting?
Which was very impressive.
Shocking.
Now, the 7970 results, the reference cards are known to be very loud. Their partner cards get better. They get better. And so we have some testing to do on that.
Yeah, but do you want me to use partner cards or reference cards across the top?
Well,
These
I think
are all
some
reference
people,
cards.
right? Some people would say use the best case scenario from everybody.
Good point.
But I just, I know why you guys are using
it's
references.
nice big red and a little,
Yeah.
But again, you're right that Titan is surprisingly quieter in many cases than 680, and 680 is well known to be just super quiet, awesome card. So we'll get into the reasons of why that is, but it's about performance efficiency of Kepler coupled with some new technology that we're deploying to keep temperatures and acoustics even more under control.
Okay.
All right, so we call it now gaming supercomputers. You take a supercomputer chip, you put it in a gaming computer, and you get a gaming supercomputer. But what a lot of people have not thought about is these small form factors, and that's really another one of the markets for Titan. There's an emerging market, I'll say, for what we call small form factor gaming PCs, and there's systems like the Tiki, the Bolt, others from other system builders, where you can now take GPUs and put them in something that'll fit quietly in your office or maybe even in your media area.
Sure.
So Titan works really well for that. This is actually showing the Tiki system, which is Falcon Northwest. And today they ship 680, which is a great device for this platform. It gives you about 37 frames per second on Crysis 3 running at 19 by 10. And it talks at about, its noise is about 46 dB. So 46 dB, very, very reasonable in a normal environment. It's probably louder than that in here today.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening with this device, though, is when you stick a Titan in there, the performance goes up, to around 48 frames per second, but the acoustics actually go down. And that is just radical. Nobody would expect Titan in a small form factor to be quieter than a 680. It's a bigger die, higher TDP, but what we're doing is we're managing all that, balancing performance and power to give a great experience.
You're also using a higher end cooler as well.
We are.
Between the 680 reference and the Titan, right?
It is a higher performance cooler, and it's a better fan design. So when you roll it all together, it says people looked at 680 and said, "Wow, that's amazing." Well, when we really apply ourselves, we can do better. That's what I'm saying.
It's all about application.
It's all about application. It's all, and if money is not the primary limiter, go for it.
Okay.
Kel gave us a nice quote. He said it's a basically fantastic design. That's what he says. In a nutshell.
Summation.
Yeah, summation. Now, there are a bunch of other small form factor PCs coming. There's the Digital Storm. I'm sorry, that's Main Gear, Falcon, Digital Storm, iBuyPower, Origin, and there's even some other channel guys coming. So the point is, this is not one system. There's more and more PCs. PCs don't have to be gigantic when there's one GPU in them now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, so let's cover Boost real quick. That's all the marketing stuff.
Okay.
Now we're
going to get into the technology.
Yes.
GPU Boost 1 introduced on GK104,
yes.
GTX 680.
Yep.
Continued through 670, 690, 660s. Did it go down to 650s? I don't think it did.
I think we somebody
Ti,
correct me. I think we did 650 Ti.
Okay. So it's been a pretty pervasive technology throughout the Kepler line.
It has.
And its purpose is to enable higher clocks when power permitted.
Yes.
And it's changed a little bit.
It has.
With this version.
It has. Well, the way to think about it is in the GPU boost algorithm, there are, on the order of 50 different things that get monitored and factored in. But the algorithm in GPU boost 1 is primarily monitoring power and adjusting clocks to maximize performance within a power window. That's GPU boost 1 in a nutshell.
Okay.
Now, what we figured out about a year ago, a bunch of smart people at Nvidia thinking about this said, you know what? It's not power so much that's the limiter anymore. It's actually the acoustic experience that we're trying to deliver. And acoustics are actually directly connected to temperature. So by monitoring the temperature of the die and adjusting performance to keep the temperature the same, we can deliver a guaranteed acoustic experience.
So when you say that, you're targeting this acoustic experience. Well, that will vary based on which specific cooler you have. On that part, right? So
of course.
The algorithm would have to be adjusted or changed if somebody had a different cooler they put on that. Is that
the way
fair?
to think about it is temperature becomes the primary metric, and so you can adjust the temperature target depending on the type of cooler that you have and the acoustics that a cooler can deliver at a particular temperature.
Or if you have different desires for the acoustic experience. If you're okay with a little bit more noise, you can move things around.
And of course, I mean, it gets a little complicated, but you can also design temperature fan curves differently to deliver different acoustics, even with the same cooler.
Okay. Well,
so there's a lot going on, but to summarize, GPU Boost 2 is different in the sense that it's primarily using temperature as the target, and then it's adjusting clocks and voltages to stay within a budget.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool. I'm going to skip through this pretty quickly, but this is a slide I showed for GPU Boost 1. It basically says that games have a bunch of different power, and that when a game has low power, running at a fixed clock, there's an opportunity to raise the clocks without violating a power budget. And that's what GPU Boost 1 did. We got higher clocks when the games would have run at lower power. Okay? Now with GPU Boost 2, we're able to raise the clocks a little bit more for a bunch of good reasons. One is, by monitoring temperature, we can be a little bit more aggressive of when we're boosting. With power, it's a little bit indirect, because even though we were monitoring power, we were still trying to deliver an acoustic experience. But it was a little indirect. Power kind of implies a temperature, which kind of implies a fan rate. So we had to be conservative. Now that we're monitoring temperature directly, we can actually be much more aggressive with ramping the clock.
Was there any technological change that had to happen on this GPU in order to enable that?
No, not there. I mean, you have to have.
It was just a philosophical change.
Yeah, you have to have good temperature capabilities and rapid ability to read temperature, but we've had that.
Okay.
And there are things, however, of course, that we can always do to improve it.
Sure.
And we will. But the key insight is more of an algorithmic architecture, thinking about different ways to use the GPUs that we have.
Okay.
Yeah. So GPU Boost is all about raising the performance, and it does it in a couple different ways. The primary thing is that we can increase performance because we're able to increase max voltage. And it's not directly obvious to most people why we can have higher voltages. So the way I described it is, if we were running a 104, if we were running the same chip, GPU Boost 2 enabled versions of that, which, by the way, we don't have. There's no GPU Boost 2 for 104. But if we did, that would run at a higher voltage because we're monitoring temperature. Now, the reason we're limited by voltage is something called reliability. And reliability is effectively diminished if you run your chip at high voltage with high temperature.
Yes.
So what GPU Boost 2 does, it says, hey, I will never allow myself to run at a high voltage when there's a high temperature. And what that means is I can run at a higher voltage when I'm at low temperature.
Okay.
Okay. And on GPU Boost 1, we didn't do that. We didn't actually monitor temperature directly. It was sort of more indirect. Okay, now the other thing we've done is we've unlocked voltages, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but we're allowing...
People have been asking for that.
Yeah, we're going to directly respond to both a request from our partners and from their customers, our customers, to let me tweak this card as much as I can. So, unlock voltages, baby. Yeah, you ask, we're in. All right, a little techie, so a little geek porn here. So what's happening, this is actually GPU Boost 1.0. And there's voltage and frequency, and what happens is the clock moves around on this curve dynamically based primarily on power. That was GPU Boost 1. But what a lot of people noticed is that no matter what, there was a max clock. And
it wasn't a specification that was really put out there or anything like that. It was just, you could find that clock if you tweak some of the settings and looked for it.
Exactly. And the clock was different based on the silicon that you get, because max clock was always related to this max voltage, right? Because effectively all parts run up and down on this curve, but we're not going to allow some parts to really raise the voltage, because again, we're worried about when the device gets hot.
Right.
If we're running at a very high voltage, then we have problems.
Okay.
So effectively, VREL was set to prevent long-term silicon damage.
Okay.
Now, what we figured out is, again, by monitoring temperature, we can avoid the case when we have high voltage and high temperature. So now GPU Boost 2 will increase the reliability limit. So you get exactly the same long-term reliability as you do with GPU Boost 1. It's just that the voltages can be higher, because we'll never allow the voltages to be that high when we're running. Okay. When our temperatures are hot. And the other thing we've done, of course, is unlocked voltages. Now, we're trying to be careful here, so we're actually asking our AIC partners to have a little click-through. So effectively, you know, AICs, when you click on their tool to overvoltage, there's a little warning. It says, don't do this. But if you really want to overvoltage, go ahead and click it, and then you can raise the voltage and raise your performance a little bit.
Okay.
So that's what temperature is. Temperature is actually really, really key to GPU Boost 2.
Okay.
So here's our chart again. Here's VREL. VREL new is now higher, right? Just because we're looking at temperature. So now we can increase the reliability limit on the voltage. That gets us a little bit higher performance. And then the other thing we're doing is we're allowing this Vmax, which is enabled by the click-through, so a user can, you know, jump up that extra little bit. And I'll show you in the demo how to do that.
Okay.
Now, all of this is about performance. We're not just doing GPU Boost because it's fun, although it is super cool. But the way to think about it is in terms of distributions of cycles. So this is showing you base clock, boost clock, and max clock. And it's showing you GPU Boost 1 versus GPU Boost 2. So the way to read this is, you know, there's some percentage of cycles that we're going to be at base clock, which is our lowest guaranteed clock. Then there's some percentage of our cycles that are going to be around boost clock. Boost clock is our typical clock, right? We say when you're running room temperature and you're running a typical game, you should be at or above boost clock most of the time.
Okay.
And then max clock is our peak clock. So you can see this distribution.
This was the previously undisclosed type number.
And still undisclosed.
Still undisclosed number.
Yeah,
okay.
But it exists. The existence of it is now there. The reason we don't have a spec for that, of course, is because it varies. Right? And we want people to have a guaranteed experience, and that's base and boost. And max clock is sort of bonus time.
What you may get.
What you may get.
Okay.
Okay. So overvoltaging clicks that up a little bit further. So if you click on the overvoltage thing, you say, give me a couple extra notches of voltage, we're going to allow you to do that, and it's going to increase your max clock.
And this will then affect temperature and sound levels as well?
It won't directly affect temperature and sound, because they're being monitored and controlled independently.
Okay.
Right. So what this says is that we'll allow this when we can maintain.
When you're still within the range.
When you're still within
defined.
the budget defined,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Now, of course, a lot of the time we are running at our max clock, because we're generally not hot, and the fan is running very low. So when you over voltage, right away we're going to see a nice little uptick in the peak clock.
Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of statistics guys kind of got on me, because this is a Tom Peterson, you know, statistical representation. So I know that when you add something, you can't just add it to the end of a distribution. All of this stuff kind of morphs a little bit, but this is meant to be, you know, simplistic view.
Illustration.
Illustrative. Don't complain about my inaccurate histograms.
Well, we'll see.
All right, so this is just a comment about how overvoltage works. Suffice it to say, off by default, and you can click through.
Okay.
So let's talk temperature. Temperature is the most important thing about GPU Boost.
2.0.
2.0.
Right.
There is a distribution of temperatures. This is showing you GPU Boost 1. And it ranged between, say, 60 and up to maybe 90, 95. And so depending on what you're doing, you know, the game, whether you have your fan up or your fan down, you're going to get a smear of temperatures on your GPU. With GPU Boost 2, that kind of goes away. And this is showing you a little variation, but really it's very tight. So what you're going to see is when you're gaming, you're going to pretty much be at your temperature, which is stock 80 degrees on Titan. So what this means is, by default, when you're running a game, you're pretty much going to be at 80 degrees C. Now, what we've done is allowed users to change that. So using overclocking APIs, users can move from 80 up to maybe 90. And if you move up your temperature target, of course, your distribution of temperature shifts with you.
So much like the original GPU Boost with power target offset,
bingo,
there's now a temperature target.
Yes.
that you add to that.
Exactly. There was a power target before, a percentage of your total peak. Now there's a temperature target.
Okay.
Now, of course, we don't get rid of the power target. That's still there because we're still able to moderate based on power. But the new and most important setting is temperature target.
Okay.
All right. So why would you ever want to shift your temperature up? Well, the primary reason is shifting the temperature up actually raises the performance. So if you look at this again, this is a nice another distribution, base clock, boost clock, and max clock. White is where you were, and if you add 10 degrees C, you can imagine that distribution shifting up.
Get an illustration, not an exact.
Not an exact histogram. Yeah, it's just a rough. Now, what's important though is that changing the temperature target does not increase the max clock, right? Because that's limited by reliability voltages.
Okay.
And it doesn't really change your base or boost clock. It changes the percentage of time that you spend at higher clocks.
Okay. But so that's really what the gamer cares about, is where their clocks are while they're actually gaming.
Exactly.
The specific specs may not, matter as much as long as you are faster more often.
Exactly. And that's the way to think about it. When we raise the temperature, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. When we raise the temperature, what actually happens is we cap down less often, right? So we're going to shift up more.
Okay.
Good. Last thing on the slides.
All right.
Temperature is directly related to fan. Everybody knows that. So there's a thing called a fan curve, which is, I'm showing in orange here. And what it means is that when temperature is low, the fan is very, very quiet. And then as temperature starts to ramp, you'll see, around 80, and it's not exactly like, there's a little bit more slope down here, but at about 80, it starts to ramp up to kind of keep the GPU cool. This is how fans work. As it gets hotter, it gets louder. Now with GPU Boost 2.0, since we're going to be running at about 80 degrees about all the time, the fan is going to be fixed.
Okay.
That's great because a fixed fan means it's nice and quiet, it doesn't change, it doesn't go ring.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not until you get past 80 that you'll see the fan speed increase as the temperature does.
Yeah.
Well, temperature would otherwise.
Exactly. But here's the thing.
So this could really be applied to performance cycles, like GPU cycles as well.
Yeah.
The same.
It is.
Same curve.
So the way to think about it is, as temperature heats up, lots of things are pushing the temperature back down. The fan's going to start getting a little bit faster, and also we're going to start lowering the clocks and lowering the voltages to drive us back down. That's why when you see it in action, we pretty much run at that temperature, and the fan really doesn't start kicking up that much unless the game is really, really getting active, and it's sort of a transient that we're reacting to.
Okay.
Now, if you move the temperature target up, your performance is going to go up, but you're also going to be running at a different spot on the fan curve. So the fan
curve doesn't automatically shift with
does not automatically shift. Okay. But we did enable a method to shift the fan curve. So you can set your fan curve, and I'll show this as well, to line up with what you do on the temperature target. And all this stuff is not really needing to be changed once you set it to your preferences. So it's actually a very interesting sort of 3-4-legged thing that individual users can tweak to get exactly the performance and experience they want.
Okay.
All clear?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure we'll have some questions again if you guys want to ask questions. We've got some people looking through the chat room. PCPer.com. Look for the post that says Join PCPer and Nvidia for the GeForce GTX TITAN live review. And in those comments, which you don't have to register even on the site to do it, you can leave a comment there. And I'm looking through some of those comments to get you some questions soon as well.
Okay. So this is a summary of GPU Boost 2. There's a temperature target, right? And you can move it up and you can move it down. If you move it up, what you're getting is max performance, and you're going to get the max, best you can do with GK110 Titan GPU. If you move it down, you're going to get totally silent, quiet operations. So it's going to be running, I think you can even slide it down to about 65 degrees. Okay. So if you really want your GPU to be running silently, you can certainly, I think you could probably build a passive Titan. I'd like to think about. We're not, by the way, these are all stock. These are all stock. There is hopefully no variation of Titans right now. We're expecting all of them to carry the same great ID. Today, same cooler, so slide your temperature target up and down. By the way, this is also really good for water cooling. So if you think about water cooling, it would always keep your temperature relatively low. So having your temperature target set above that means that you'll never be capping. You'll always
be at your max clock or close to.
Always be at your max clock, or something else will limit you. Maybe it's power, maybe, who knows. It could be utilization, but you won't be limited by temperature.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
So there's another cool technology that we added with Titan. It's
With Kepler, you showed adaptive VSync.
Yep.
Which was enabled, where VSync would enable at frame rates over 60, disable under 60, and what was the other one? Frame rate target.
Frame rate target, yep. All those still
So
work
if you're
on Titan.
playing older games that didn't need to run at 200 frames per second, you could set a cap that would lower your power, lower your consumption. This is another feature kind of in that vein.
It is, although it's starting to get a little bit on the edge. I love it. I'm always a little bit on the edge. But what we figured out is that people are already using our driver, and they're doing something called creating custom resolutions. And inside of the custom resolution, there's an ability to set the frequency of the monitor that you want to talk to. So if you don't know, the way monitors work is there's a little chip inside these monitors, and it communicates to the GPU through something called EDID, and it says, hey, I am a 60 hertz monitor, and I'm running at 19 by 10. And then our GPU software uses that information to set up the size of the image and the frequency that we talk back to the display.
Right.
So the display doesn't really control the clock. It tells us, please drive this clock.
Okay.
Now what we figured out is, and it helped, I think there's a forum, like 120 hertz forum or something like that, where we found these guys doing all this, and it's really amazing.
Yeah.
You know? And so we got a few of these panels in, and we started playing with them, and then it hit us, hey, why don't we make this easy?
Yeah.
So the way we've made it easy is we now have a new setting where it says 60 hertz is the current frequency, but you can change it to whatever you want. So it doesn't have to be 60, it can be 80, it can be 75. And what you're actually doing is trying to overclock your panel. And all Nvidia is doing here is making something happening out in the enthusiast community easier to do.
Is there any danger in this for the user?
Well, we're not
More so than normal overclocking. Obviously, you're not warranting the display or anything like that, but are you worried, or should people be worried about frying their monitor by pushing a 70 hertz to it?
Well, we don't think so. There's a community of users that doesn't think so. But anything when you're overclocking your CPU, you're overclocking your GPU, you're overclocking your memory. All of that is at your own risk. But I have not seen any problems with any panels. But it's not guaranteed to work. So we do have a recovery mechanism. If you slide the little pixel overclock tool up, what it does is a mode set, and it tries to drive your panel at that frequency. And if it doesn't work and you don't click on OK, that just kind of like a Windows mode set, then it reverts after 10
So it's like changing the resolution on your display today. If it doesn't somehow work, the 15-second timeout, or you hit escape and it will go away.
And most panels don't have any problem with doing this because it's just like when they get a signal they don't understand. You know, they don't blow up. They just go, I don't know.
Right.
But a lot of panels do react actually to a higher frequency.
What kind of results have you guys seen?
We've seen it work.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I don't have a distribution of like how fast. But look on the forums. There's actually guys that are doing panel overclocking, display overclocking.
Yeah.
You ought to do like a whole thing on it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we didn't find out until too late that the tool was available to us. But we have our fair number of monitors here at the office.
I'd be curious.
And we may just overclock a bunch of them and see what we get.
And what you should see, and the reason we're doing this is because with VSync on, which is tear-free, you can now get higher and higher frame rates, which is a really good thing.
Okay.
All right. And we're all for excitement. All for excitement. Okay, so this is the new controls, and you can see everything in green is new with GPU Boost 2. So you got the GPU temperature target, you got the max voltage, which is the way you over voltage, and then the display clock. And there's a couple other things that I'll talk about when we do the demo called linked and prioritize.
Okay.
All right. And so last thing is when you buy a Titan, you don't just get a GPU and a great ID and world-class performance and crushing all competitors, as if that were not enough. You get all the Nvidia goodness. So physics, TXA, all the game stuff, SLI.
There's that bridge again.
If you haven't tried, have you tried GFE?
Yes.
GFE is going to become very, very important. If you're out there watching and you have not tried GFE, download it. It's going to become production very, very soon.
Okay.
And one of the cool things about GFE is we're getting tons of feedback on it. What it does is it sets up your games for an optimal playable experience. But it also keeps all your software up to date. So it does your driver downloads automatically. And it asks you, do you want to install it quietly? Do you want us to inform you when there's a driver update? You can really configure it. But the way to think about GFE is sooner or later, it's going to be the primary way that you get drivers.
We've already talked about how GFE will kind of power Shield, the Shield Tegra 4 gaming device, the future for the PC game streaming and that kind of stuff. So
GFE is going to become very soon sort of a must-have piece of software on your PC. You can still opt in and opt out of different features, but to get the full experience, it's going to be the client that NVIDIA uses to drive all of our different technologies.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was told the other day by somebody that sometimes it's a server, not just a client. So it's a server. It's a server when you're connecting and streaming to Shield, right? But it's a client when it's downloading.
Makes sense.
So, but I think of it
it's
as
an application.
Bingo. Maybe client is the wrong word.
Client might be the wrong word.
I've just always called things that run on your PC a PC client.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's your specs. So 2,688 CUDA cores. Base clock is 837. Boost clock is 876. But a lot of the time, you're going to see us running much, much, much higher clocks. And as a matter of fact, today I think we will show you that. Single precision is 4.5 teraflops. Double precision is 1.3 teraflops. Some people have asked about that. So DP, double precision, is turned on. So there's going to be some guys that buy this card because it's just a crazy, great compute engine.
Right.
It does have the 6 gigabytes running at 6 gigabits I told you about. It's a 6 and an 8 on the power connectors. So you can see it's not crazy. 250 watts TDP, and it's got the same backplate as 680 does. So it's 2 dual link, 1 HDMI, and 1 DP.
Okay.
How about that for a summary?
It's good. I like it. Concise.
Concise?
Yeah. So the GPU Boost 2, you're saying it's not coming back. It's not going to be retroactively added to GTX 680 or anything like that.
No. And there's good reasons for that, right? Because GPU Boost is a brand new technology. It affects clocks and it affects temperatures. It's sort of very fundamental to the GPU.
Sure.
Now, it's not going to work on all of the 104s or all of the 680s or all the 670s that are out there in the world. So it would be a bad thing for us to update a driver and all of a sudden, our partners get a bunch of RMAs. So this technology requires requalification and may require a few tweaks. So it's not going to be rolled backwards, and we have no announcements about any future products or plans that may be using it.
So if I find any of those questions, I should just...
You can ask them. I might come up with a witty non-answer.
Any chance of a Titan variant in the future with reduced SMs and cores counts due to yields and bitting that may have a lower price?
No comment.
Saying, man, that's not fun.
That's an excellent question, though.
Here's a question we got. He's asking for our advice. Can we please advise them?
Yes.
He's running 3 1080p screens and was going to buy a GTX 690 to replace the 680.
Wow.
What, if any, advantage would there be getting a Titan instead of a 690?
Wow. One Titan, 3 displays versus one 693 displays.
Correct.
So I would say it really depends on the games that he's going to run. I'm going to look at the camera. Really depends on who is this, by the way?
This would be Ray Witz.
Ray. It really depends on the games you're going to run and on how often you run it. The reason I like Titan is it's a single GPU. And single GPUs don't have some of the tweaky things that sometimes multi-GPU setups have. I know there are some times when, even though you get higher frame rates from a multi-GPU setup, it doesn't actually deliver a better experience. So I don't have a great answer for you because it really depends on your configuration. We're going to be making available, by the way, 690 and Titan for the foreseeable future. And
they're going to exist together.
They coexist, right?
Okay.
It's not like this is the new 690. Some people really want maximum frame rate. And if you want maximum frame rate, you can get that today. 690 is a fantastic device. It's a fantastic card. And we're going to continue to make it available for anybody that wants it. Titan is sort of new and different. It's a single GPU.
Right.
It gives you great performance. It has none of the issues that multi-GPUs have. It's got better acoustics and better airflow for small form factors. So I think both of those guys have very obvious homes in the market.
Okay. Another question here from Goose67A in the chat room. What CPU would be considered a bottleneck for this GPU?
I saw an interesting article, and it was from a competitor website.
We're open with that.
Okay, that did, I think it was Chris Angelini.
Yep.
And he did CPU sensitivity to min frame rate.
Okay.
Now, it turns out that most CPUs' average frame rate does not get changed very much.
Interesting.
But minimum frame rate actually does see a significant correlation to CPU.
Okay.
So it really depends on what he's asking about. Goose, it depends on what you're asking about, because average frame rate is not very affected by CPU. But minimum frame rate is strongly affected by CPU, and so I would actually tend to couple these things together with a premium build. I would probably personally not take a Titan and sit it next to a Pentium 4. Yeah,
That's probably a good call.
I feel awkward about that.
Yeah.
I might really love to have, a X79 system with a high-end Intel CPU, but that's just because if I'm going to build a system with a $1,000 beautiful graphics card, I want to make sure nothing else is going to screw that up. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. Maybe we'll take some more questions in a little bit. Let's move on to.
Okay. Do you want to do anything from your review, or do you want to? Just dive in?
Well, let's do a couple of things from the review. If we switch over to the PC Perspective review.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
Oh, hiding behind our.
Okay, and we'll just double-click that. There you
So
go.
we don't need to go over all the details of the information that Tom just provided.
I thought it was a good review.
But here's what we can do.
Good job.
Let's.
Were you up late last night?
This morning, and yes.
Sorry about that, buddy.
So here's what's interesting. Tom won't be able to say this, but I can say this. There are still questions about the Titan in terms of where it lies in performance and all that kind of stuff. For a single GPU, it is the fastest single GPU we've ever tested.
God bless you.
It's the fastest single GPU card we've ever tested.
I knew you were a genius.
It is not the fastest card.
No.
In most cases, the GTX 690 is outperforming the Titan in average frame rates, anywhere from 10 to 15%. But the Titan compared to the GTX 680 or the HD 7970, it is winning by anywhere from 15 to 30 to 40%.
Handily.
Yes, it's winning. It's winning by a solid amount, without a doubt. If we look at some Battlefield 3 results here, we'll go ahead and skip 1080p because if you buy this card and you're playing on 1080p, don't do that.
It's okay though.
No,
Buy the card.
Buy a monitor.
Then worry about everything else.
Buy a monitor and then buy a card. But if we look at 2560 by 1440, what you'll see here is this is kind of our traditional performance metric where we're seeing the average frame rate.
Yes, okay.
Right, so you're looking at 72 frames on average versus 51 versus 55. If we look at just a single card configuration, 680 and 7970.
Right. And then you see 690.
690.
Of course.
Higher minimum, higher average. That seems really great. Now there is a little bit more variance in frame time, right? Because of that, multi-GPU just in its nature is not as perfect as a single GPU is, regardless of what vendor you're talking about.
Not as consistent in frame times.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll word it that way. And you can see that more if we actually go to the SLI page with Battlefield 3, and we scroll back down to 2560. You see you get good scaling on both of these solutions. Titan to Titan SLI scales well. 680 SLI actually scales a little bit better. What's interesting is when you look at this, I'm guessing that what I'm seeing is a little bit more CPU bottleneck holding back the SLI scaling of Titan than you are in 680 because there's so much additional GPU horsepower there.
That, in general, you'll see frame rate and CPU bottleneckedness are connected.
Right. Okay. And then you can see here, let's see if we can zoom in on one of these.
Wow.
You get a little bit more frame time variance.
Yeah, I really want you to,
We'll adjust how we do stuff later, but you can kind of match up some of the shapes and patterns what we're seeing here.
I get it.
But the single GPU,
this is which is this?
The light green is single Titan.
Okay, 680, and then this is
light green is single Titan. So you get this very narrow band, consistent frame times.
And you can see here.
And you get sometimes you get
what's the dark green?
Dark green is
680
SLI.
SLI. Yeah. Oh yeah, interesting.
So while the Titan SLI has better overall performance,
we can see
this kind of inconsistent frame times. And I think it's a CPU kind of holdover from that because you see it not here.
Yep.
But you do see it in
And what's really interesting is when you see, well, we're getting a little geeky here, but the height of these lines being matching is not surprising.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Because that would tell you that the CPU is holding it back right to that point.
Bingo!
And it moves on to the next to the next frame.
That's what I'm thinking.
Geeky graphics testing.
You're getting here.
Yeah. So we'll look at one more. This is interesting. Crysis 3, because we did some surround testing on this at least.
I haven't seen this.
Great looking game, by the way.
It does look great.
We'll demo it in a little bit.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we're going to demo that.
Let's do it.
So here's 5760 by 1080, and we're just testing the single card solutions here. What's interesting is now we see Titan at 5760 by 1080 at all settings high, running at 21 frames. That is a misgraphed image, thanks.
Sorry, I'm just being a dick.
I know. Compare that to 690, and now we see the performance kind of flips where the Titan is actually running a little bit faster than the 690. And even look at minimum frame rates. It's a pretty, pretty
That's
dramatic
huge.
difference.
Oh, okay, so say this again. So Titan is 18 and 21, and then 10 and 20. So this is a big gap.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's faster than the 680, it's faster than the 7970, but it's faster than the dual GPU GK104, which is interesting as well. So we'll have more 5760 by 1080 testing. We have done a lot of the testing. We just hadn't had time to compile it all. Like this was a 4:30 a.m. type finished project. So we'll move on.
You've done a lot of work.
We'll be able to expand it into another article.
Good.
Titan
You've done a lot of hard
surround
work.
testing. How about that?
You deserve a day. Take a day off.
Yeah. I probably won't.
Okay. Well, you know,
today should be that day.
It's not my money.
Sleeping Dogs is another game that turned out to be very GPU intense.
Really?
Ooh,
see, again, 690 wins in this case.
690 wins.
And this is still, but this is 2560 by 1440.
2560 by 1440. And then,
but look at the frame times. That was very tight. See, everybody was doing a pretty good job there.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then if we go down to this was how you know that it's a very GPU limited game. If you look at the SLI results, even at 1080p it scales well, but here you're going from 32 to 63 on a Titan to Titan SLI.
Wow.
That's 90-something%.
It's pretty good
scaling, right? So and it's kind of interesting to think 2 GTX Titan SLIs on a single display are only getting you just over 60 frames per second.
But this actually makes me think GPU limited.
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, okay, good.
If I misspoke, I meant GPU limited.
You did.
Not CPU limited.
I wasn't going to call you out on that.
Well, somebody would eventually.
Okay.
And you can see here, because there's no CPU interference with it.
Nice, tight distribution.
Right, and especially, actually, I'll zoom in on this one a little bit as well. Look, I mean, these are as tight, if not closer together than what you get on the single card.
Interesting. That's actually really interesting. I'm going to look at that one. But you know, what I really don't like is the spikes. And I know this is us alone, right? So there's no AMD in here. But these guys, these are the things to really work on.
Yep.
And I think there's more for us to do. Yeah. But
you guys, you're not out of a job yet.
No, we have more to do.
You didn't perfect everything.
It's really damn good, though.
And the last thing,
really good.
The last thing I'll show is just because I really like this picture that Ken took for us is of the GK110 die.
Oh, Ken, you did that die? Nice job.
It's a enormous photo.
Did you Photoshop that out to make the Nvidia thing?
No, that was just clever lighting.
Did we provide this die, or did you rip it off of something?
Well, it's bordered and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so now let's do some demos. I encourage everybody, I really want everybody to go read the rest of the review at pcper.com. Sorry, take them
It's a good review.
It is a good review, if I do say so.
Can I just check one thing?
Yeah.
Just really curious about. Blah, 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 but...
Words.
Yeah, conclusions.
Oh, man.
What a hand. Oh! Gold award! Ka-ching! All right, enough of that. All
right, while you're setting up the demo, I got a question for you. This is a good question. I don't know this one.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot. 4K monitor question.
Yes.
I need the power of the GTX Titan. I have an IBM T22 1DG5, 3840 by 2400, 22-inch monitor. Oh. Requires 2 DVI dual-link cables. Can the GTX Titan or other GeForce use horizontal span to treat my monitor as one monitor?
That is an excellent question. So today, who was that, by the way?
I'm sorry, that was Oscar.
Oscar. So today, Oscar on GeForce, which is our consumer cards, there is no way to support 2 sort of heads on one monitor. We don't have that technology in our driver, but I do think that it's a very important technology. We're seeing more and more panels like that. I think there are some 4K by 2K displays coming that are going to be even more bringing down the price point. So as that sort of monitor resolution becomes more and more common in the consumer space, we'll be looking at enhancing our product offering on that dimension. But today, unfortunately, in the consumer space, the answer is no. We do, of course, support technology like that for 2 heads mosaic mode on Quadro.
Okay.
So I guess that's a no, not yet on Titan.
Fair enough. So what are we going to look at in our demo?
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank EVGA for providing this tool. This is a brand new version of Precision. They're calling it Precision 4.0. And it's available today. So when we launch our Boost 2.0, you can get tools right away that access it. And the first thing you'll see is The temperature target. Now, maybe we should make that bigger, or maybe put it on top, because the temperature target is the most important thing that you can play with.
Okay.
So on the right here, we have the real-time display. It's running every 100 milliseconds, updating, and you can see right now things are really quiet. It's running at about what, 30% fan, and it's 34 degrees temperature.
Right.
So idle. Okay.
Yep.
Now what I'm going to do is start a program just to give us a load. I'm just going to pick Heaven Benchmark. It's not meant to be a performance benchmark for me. It is really just going to run it so I can see some stuff. This is just generating a load. And what I may even do is move it out of the way once we get it going.
Yeah, it has to load up all the way before we can do that.
Yeah. So we're gonna fill in the Dragon, and now we're off and running. Boom. Okay, precision and Heaven. So Heaven's going to be down here, and here's Precision. I'm going to iconify this guy, and we're back to the tool. So the first thing you'll see is that we are at 992 megahertz. So we're above our boost clock.
By a good amount.
By a good amount, right?
Yeah.
And we're probably actually running at our stock max clock for this card. And the reason I can tell that is because I'm at 57 degrees. My fan is at 37%. So I'm below my my temperature target by quite a bit. So it's very, very likely that I'm just running all the way up to my max clock on this card.
Okay.
Now, what's cool is you can see the temperature. It's gradually increasing. We're now up to what, like 67 degrees.
Yeah.
And the fan is sort of slowly coming up. That's because we're I think on the fan curve, let me make sure, yeah, we're just doing the stock fan curve. And the stock fan curve is just going to gradually rise slowly up until about 80, and then it's going to start rising a little bit more aggressively.
Okay.
So what's happening is we're keeping our clock at max clock all this time while we're heating up. And
the voltage is...
Voltage is fixed.
Is that probably max voltage too?
Max voltage, right here. It's flat at
1162.
1162. So again, for this card, at this temperature, the max voltage is 1162.
Okay.
Now we're getting up to the magic zone. Let's call it the magic spot when we get to the temperature target.
Okay.
Now we're at 77 degrees, and we're slowly floating up there. You know what? To make things go a little bit quicker, actually, you know what? Let's just let it go.
Yeah.
Wait, 78. 70.
And we know what's slowing us down is the fan speed is picking up as well.
Yep.
So it's not like it's not
flat.
It's not like the fan is stop at 30%.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden you hit 80 and it goes vroom,
No, it's
right?
kind of a gradual
thing.
ramp, and then it's
Okay.
just going to start ramping slightly more aggressively after we get to 80. But what's going to be super interesting...
We've already seen now the clock has come down some. It was 992
Well, let's see. Here's clock.
and now it's 980.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're ramping down slightly. Where's the clock? Right. Okay, yeah, 980.
Right here.
And back here, it was 992. So as the temperature is getting higher, 77, 78, now we're starting to get ready to control a little bit more aggressively. The fan is still running right around 57%. Now we're at our temperature target, and the frequency is still 978. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. So to make this a little bit more obvious, I'm going to turn off auto on the fan, and I'm going to manually lower it down to, say, 39%.
Okay.
Okay, so what's going to happen right away, you can see the fan drop down, and the clock is still pretty high, but now the clock starts dropping. It went all the way down to 836. Now what's interesting is we're still at 80 degrees, and now we're climbing up a little bit. What's happening here is we're showing you a fundamental trade-off, because we have a base clock, and we're not going to go lower than the base clock, which is 836. But you've done two things. We've set a fan that's basically off, but you're not allowing me to go lower than the base clock, so it's going to get a little bit hotter. We're already up to 83 degrees. Now, we have a button here called Prioritize, and if you click Prioritize, what that means is prioritize temperature. And what I want is lower the performance as much as you have to.
Even below
base
clock.
Right? That's why it's off by default. By default, we say we're going to honor base clock, but if you start messing around with the fans and you really want to keep the temperature anyway, then we'll allow the clock to drop all the way down. Now look at the clock.
Now we're down to 575.
575. We're still delivering, good frame rates. This thing's still running.
Why would a user want to do that? Why would you want to prioritize temperature
above all else?
Above everything else.
Well, the way I look at it, let's say a user really wants it to be silent.
Okay.
What I could do is set a fan curve to a place where I can't hear it. And for me, it may be 44%. Right? And what I'm basically saying is I never want the fan to change again. But I also want to make sure my GPU never gets above my temperature target. So now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the clocks and the voltage to deliver exactly that.
So here we can
experience.
see the clocks have come back up. We're up to 770 again.
And our temperature, by the way, is going to be just nailed at 80.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the clocks are going to vary based on a combination of the fan and your temperature target and the current GPU target. Now what's cool about this is, again, you know, there's really nothing magic about 80 degrees. The reason it's set at 80 is because with our stock fan curve, that's a perfect experience. But again, if you're doing a manual fan curve, you might want to just say, all right, well, maybe 88. Okay, because now what's happening is I'm saying go ahead and raise the temperature a little bit, and you can see the clocks popped right back up.
Yep.
And my temperature is now rising even though my fan is fixed, and it's going to rise up until you get 88, and then what will happen is the clocks will restabilize at a different point because you're now at a higher temperature target.
And all this while keeping the fan speed locked at 44%, which you happen to pick as a user might decide is their,
and that's
their threshold.
Exactly. And now look, we get up to 88, and then the temperature stabilizes, and now the clocks are starting to tick down, right?
Yep.
And effectively, it's just this idea of, as a user, you can dial in exactly the experience that you want. Now, if we go back to default, right, and kind of say...
Is it fair to say that maybe this application is something that system vendors would use if they're building in that Tiki system and the mini ITX configurations?
Well, what we say is the fan's going to kick up for a while we cool it down.
Yep.
But effectively, it works wonderfully default, right? Because what default's going to do is keep you at 80 degrees C, and it's going to adjust the performance up or down based on that temperature, and the fans are going to just hover at around 50%.
But never below base.
But never below base.
Okay.
And that's what you generally want most of the time.
Sure.
But system builders, certainly when they're doing water cooling or when they're doing a small form factor, they may choose to deliver a guaranteed acoustic experience.
Okay.
And in that case, they may literally just adjust the fan curve, or they can adjust the temperature target. It really is easy for system builders to get an exact experience. Now, one more thing I want to show you is the fan curve. So we're running kind of normal now. We're down to 80 degrees C, fans at 58. I think fan at 58 is a little bit high for me in general. So what I like to do, I use precision here, and I set up a little fan curve. It's really easy. You just grab these little points, and you can slide your fan curve around. Really, really easy. But I basically say I don't want to hear the fan at all until I get to 80 degrees, and then I want to gradually ramp up to about 60% on my fan, which is generally a very, very quiet fan. But what it's going to do is moderate primarily based on temperature, right? And now, so you can basically have your fan control set to your own acoustic preferences and count on the clock, you know, the clock gating and the clock adjustment to, again, moderate things.
What is the advantage or disadvantage of linking power target and temp target?
You know, by default, power target and temp target are linked, and that's what this button does too right here, linked. The idea is that if I slide down the power target or slide up the power target, you know, the temperature really ought to move with it. And the reason is because what you're trying to say when you slide this around is max performance or best acoustics. So if somebody's just treating this as a very, you know, basic user, you're sort of trading off performance, acoustics all at the same time. And that's why it's linked. Now, of course, unlinked is useful for people that really, you know, they have a specific experience that they're looking for. So you can tile down the temperature power target and dial up the temperature. Maybe that's what you want. That will actually control the amount of heat in the long run that's coming out of your GPU. But it'll allow you to burst up clocks for periods of time when it's possible.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ways to tweak this up. But it all is easy. You can't hurt your GPU playing with it. It's all guaranteed to work.
Okay.
So let's do two more things here. One is overclocking.
Yes.
Or do you want to wait?
No, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Overclocking is amazingly easy. Again, just like GPU Boost 1, GPU Boost 2 uses a clock offset. So I'm going to go ahead and set everything back to default and apply it. And we've got this load still running. So what I'll do is just increase the clock offset. And what this does, I'm going to pick like 130 and apply it. What this does
risky.
Is risky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all live.
But I've got a low fan, so we're still kind of you know, hovering at about 83C, and we're moderating the clock down to base clock. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and change the fan back to something a little bit more aggressive. And let's say OK. And the fan will ramp up a little bit. And then you'll see the clocks come up to my new, you know, uncorked.
So the fan speed comes up, GPU temp comes down. As GPU temperature comes down, that will enable the capability for the GPU clock to go up.
Now think about it like this. What's really interesting is the temperature ends up staying very, very close. But the clocks jump up to consume that thermal headroom. That's the way to think about it, right? Because now the fan's running a little bit higher. To maintain 80, we can do that with higher average clocks. Now this works the other way as well. If you, let's say you're not as sensitive to the sound, you can,
it's in another room or something.
It's in another room where you got headphones on. Go ahead and click up the fan, right? And if you click up the fan, guess what's going to happen? We're going to peg it at our new overclocked, right? Now we're up to actually 1071, 1084, 1100.
Wow. Yeah.
It's really, really straightforward, right? Acoustics drive performance, not the other way around.
So it seems to me that if you have one of these cards and you're going to overclock it, then maybe that. So you start at that point. You say, what sound level do I want?
Right.
Okay. Now, and I guess we can adjust the fan curve so that you allow it to go up to 70 quicker.
Yep.
And you say, okay, you know what? I game with headphones. It's under my desk, kind of far away.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with a 70% fan speed, and I want the most performance possible.
Absolutely.
Or the other is, you know what? This PC sits on the desk next to me, and I have speakers.
Yep.
And maybe you would adjust it that way. That's interesting.
No, it's
and you adjust overclocking from that direction as well.
Exactly. So basically, I mean, I'm saying basically a lot, but the
essentially
essentially this is a really easy to tweak, and you can set it to, you know, kind of match the experience that you want to get. So let me just get these dots out of the way here. Okay, so what this is a little bit more aggressive fan curve, right? And we're going to apply it. And I'm going to click auto. Okay, so now it says go ahead and ramp the fan up to about 70 degrees. So let's just check that out. Fan curve. And it says at 70 degrees, 76 degrees.
It's only checking every 5 seconds. Maybe lower that. Okay. Oh, hit apply.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
There we go.
So it's just going to kind of change the fan now dynamically. And oh, there we go, down to 59.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm feeling lucky. Feeling lucky.
Oh, man.
Let's add a little bit more.
Okay.
155.
Yeah.
There you go. So now we've got this sort of like an enthusiast might have it, right? Where he's okay with a little bit of noise. But there's more. But wait. So what we've got here is voltage and tweaking. So remember I told you about unlocking voltage?
Yes.
So if you click on voltage and tweaking, EVGA pops up this little guy here. And you can see right now we're at 0 millivolts offset. But you can also see there's this, like, there's a slider. There's a slider. So if you click on over voltage, you get a pop-up. And the pop-up says, don't, please, over voltage your $1,000 graphics card. But of course, if you want to, you can click accept. And since, hey, I've got more, you click and you can raise it. And what this is actually doing is adding 37 millivolts to the peak voltage.
Okay.
Now, we will not ship that by default because if you do this, it's going to affect the long-term reliability of your card. It's not going to blow it up right away. It's not going to hurt it immediately, but it is beyond what we consider reliable for the long term. And I did a blog post on this last year when I got a lot of flack for over-voltaging and turning it off.
The GPU boost originally.
Yeah, but now, you know what? The decision is back with our users. AICs may choose to disable this on their implementations, but the normal way is to just enable it. So if you say apply, then what happened now is our new peak voltage is going to be a little bit higher than it was. So over voltage, click accept, and then apply. Okay, and we're up to 1032. The voltage went up a little bit, and if you look here on our voltage, our peak voltage is now, what is that, 1.1112? 1112, and if we give it a little more fan, we'll get all the way up to our peak. $1084, 1125, 1150. So you can get the idea of, the voltage, again, it's an opportunity. And we're only going to go up to that peak when, the temperature is right, the fan is right, all the rest of it.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's enough tweaking. We're going to set everything back to default. Reset this thing, apply it. And I think we're ready to try Crysis.
That is the game of the hour.
That is the game of the hour.
We've done some testing on it last night. We showed you some of the benchmarks. It is impressive looking. It really is.
It really does look great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to play the game.
So maybe while we set that up, Another question. Since
for it.
GK, this is from Scott from since GK110 has different units for double precision and GPU, can games target both single precision and double precision units at the same time? Would that give performance advantages, or the excess heat nullify it?
There are no games that I'm aware of today that use double precision floating point. And that technology is exposed to games through, I think, generally a technology called OpenCL. And games could indeed program to that to take advantage of the DP, but I don't know of any games that do that today. So the presence of DP doesn't necessarily improve the performance of games.
Okay.
Now, in general, we are not optimized for OpenCL. I saw a few questions from reviewers about OpenCL. We do support OpenCL, and it does work on Titan. But in general, we don't really spend a lot of time working on OpenCL. We are working on CUDA and CUDA development. But again, CUDA for consumers is there's just not a lot of demand there for consumers.
Right.
But it's very important to our workstation and our server customers.
Okay. Let's see. Filtering through some other stuff here. Will non-reference designs be available?
Not as far as I know, and there's no intention to make non-reference designs available. As a matter of fact, every card you buy will be very similar to this one. The only exception is water blocks have been enabled, so it's certainly possible that some of our AIC partners may choose to bring water blocks pre-installed onto this instead of having this ID. But you know, when you're building a card like this and you've got ID that's this beautiful, it's hard to get over taking away the piece.
Hit enter a couple times.
Hit enter a couple times.
Switch inputs here.
Okay. Let me just click on it. There we go. Ooh, which one do you think? This one probably. Okay, now maybe switch the screen. Ken, do we have a screen on the other one?
It's blank.
It's blank. Oh.
I wonder if maybe we had left it open from our right before the stream started. Let's go ahead and Alt F4. That works on Crisis, I believe.
Well, we're getting
because we're getting our overlay. Yeah. Here, I'll switch back here and right-click on that, and we'll give Crisis.
Okay, I tell you what, you're responsible for launching Crisis. You are the advanced technician.
All right. So here's a question
Actually,
for
you can even play Crisis because you know what you're doing.
Well, that's debatable.
Yeah, I saw you on your live stream.
If you watch me play,
I saw you.
It may not be the case.
I saw you. You did fine.
There we go.
Okay, so Crisis is now dead, right?
Do we have Crisis on the other screen yet?
Oh, close heaven. Maybe it's giving Crisis a headache.
You killed it.
We killed Crisis.
Oh, did you pen this down here? Okay. All right. That would make more sense then. So here's the question. The GTX 680 sells for a little bit less than half of a Titan. What reasoning would you have to get a Titan over a pair of GTX 680s?
Well, it's a good question. A pair of GTX 680s is very similar to a 690 in terms of performance. So just like I say, there are some cases where you're going to prefer a multi-GPU setup if you just want a max frame rate. But a lot of people actually prefer the experience of a single GPU. So if I was a single GPU-centric guy, I would be buying the Titan for sure. But the other thing that you get with the Titan is the benefit of being able to put two of them together. So, of course, you know, doing two-way Titan is much more efficient for the very, very high end. How we doing?
Well, let's see.
Yay!
That's a little bit better looking.
That's a little better looking.
I wonder if we had our precision on the wrong
you think?
thing. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Well,
this looks a little bit better.
It does. I think it's about to go full screen. Come on, baby. There we go.
Or maybe it doesn't like the EVGA overlay.
No, we had it.
OSD. We did have it before?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can kill it if you think that might be.
Yeah, and then even that goes away.
Dun, dun.
All right. Well, I think we should. Let's see.
You want to kill precision?
Well, just take the OSD off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Did we maybe not unapply all the overclocks and stuff?
Let's just double check on precision, yeah. Okay, everything looks to be default. So yeah, we should be good.
We'll close this and reopen it as well. Where's that at?
Oh, and don't let me forget you to show the LED tool. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, the LED that controls the lighting on site. Yeah. All right. So
Looks
we open this up. Should that be on this display or the other display?
Oh, this is fine.
Okay. Let's give it another chance.
Come on, Crisis.
It all ran perfectly fine.
It did. You know how this is.
Even when we were overclocked. It was
I know.
So.
Well, you know how this is. See, I don't remember if we saw that. Oh.
It usually opens up in a window, right, Ken? Yeah.
Okay. 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 Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
Nope. Nope. Reboot.
Reboot it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Well, I was going to actually do a reboot. You can do it the hard. Some people just like to kill the systems.
Go it in, baby.
To close the applications.
That's old thinking. That's old thinking. You don't need to do that anymore. All right, while we're rebooting, why don't we ask another question? Got anything?
Okay. I upgraded the top single GPU for each series. Where does the Titan fit into NVIDIA's current and future lineup?
That is an excellent question. So, of course, I can't comment on future lineup. That would be a career-limiting move. I've done many career-limiting moves so far. Today, I want to kind of cap it at one.
Yes, okay. All right, fair enough.
In general, Titan is at the very high end of our stack.
Okay.
So it is the fastest performing single GPU by far. It's much faster than the 680.
Okay.
So it lives at the top. Now, of course, the only thing that's complicated about that is the presence of 690, which is also a single GPU in some sense. It uses two chips, but a single card. So depending on your preference, again, for dual GPU configurations versus single, I think you would have a preference for one or the other. Oh, what was that?
We went to offline mode, and it requires you to put your password back in for whatever reason.
Okay.
We already answered this. Will NVIDIA release the ability to mod GTX 600 series cards as far as voltages and targets and that kind of stuff go?
So again, none of this technology is going backwards. And of course, we're not going to comment on future GPUs.
Titan M for mobile PCs?
Well, that would be exciting, but I'm not going to comment on that either. Yeah, Titan M for mobile.
All right, so that's working now.
We're in. Okay.
Let's quit out of this. We'll restart EVGA.
Good.
We have to put it on the other
screen
so we can get our monitoring tools to run.
Good.
Right.
I think it should just work.
It's the other way, isn't it? Yes. I did that last time.
Good. Very good.
Okay.
And let's bring it.
Let's do it again.
Please.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah. Now, when you're doing a live demo, it's obviously a percentage of the time it's not going to work. Do you have any stats on that?
How many times live demos work versus they don't?
Yeah.
No, because when they don't work, I just block it out of my mind.
Is that right?
Yeah. What we should have done is while it was going on, we just show a close up of the card.
Ooh.
Look. And what we do is then we say Crysis 3 is playing wonderfully, and then when people ask, we just blame Ken. He forgot to switch the camera.
Ken.
All right. So what we're gonna do here?
Oh.
Let's.
How's my audio? Did I lose it? I'm okay. Good. All right. Let's do it. Let's do some stuff.
All right.
Now, right away, we're at 1,700 frames per second, so you can see that we crush Crysis.
Titan is awesome.
Titan crushes 17. So that's the new headline.
Titan runs at 1,700 frames per second
on
Crysis 3.
But you know what's cool is even though we're running 1,700 frames per second, you're not going to have the problems that you used to have because we're still going to limit our performance by acoustics.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Now we're slightly under 1,700 frames per second here.
Well, it's still, oh, look at that. That does look good. I think we turned off VSync so you can see the actual frame rate.
Yeah, so for the live stream, what you're probably seeing is the tearing, but the tearing shows up worse on a stream because the MP4 encoding.
It snaps on the tear.
It's not good at the really sharp changes that you see.
Right. So you see like a little checkerboard across the tear. Wow.
So we'll show a little bit of this, and then we'll maybe do a little bit of it with VSync back on.
Yeah, this really does look good. So we're not hot yet. We're at 67 degrees, and we're running at the stock max clock for this car, which is 993, which is pretty cool.
Since I'm the one playing now, we have to do this.
You're going to do the inverted thing?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What happened to you? Oh, is this from a flight simulator when you were a kid or something?
That's how the world actually works.
No, it doesn't work like that. No, it doesn't.
Yes.
If it worked like that...
If you're an actual PC gamer, that's That's where you started, is in flight sims, and it stuck with me because of that. I argue with everybody, and most everybody seems to disagree with me.
Here's what I'm curious about. Can we do a quick poll on your thing about inverted versus non-inverted?
Okay, in the chat room, answer once, inverted or non-inverted.
Right, and Kenny, you're going to give us a summary.
Okay.
Inverted or
So
not
ready
inverted.
for the flood
So
of
just give me a
chat.
sense. Which way do I play?
You'd probably play non, obviously.
Non-inverted, yeah.
Because you're making fun of me, right?
No, I'm done. I don't.
So
mean to
just in
make it-
case, here's our settings. We're
not about
playing
you.
at 1080 because of the stream. This card can run faster than that. We've got MSAA on at 4x. Texture resolution very high. System spec set to very high, which then sets the rest of the settings, the advanced, to very high throughout. We've turned down motion blur, again, mostly because of the stream and X264 encoding not liking motion blur a whole lot. And it's a Crisis game, so you got to have lens flares. So here we go.
So we're at 40 frames a second or so in this level. This looks like a pretty good level.
This is actually the level we use for our benchmarking.
Oh, nice.
That started yesterday.
Okay,
and you
so
can see
It looks good.
it's really,
Beautiful.
really gorgeous looking.
It is. And you're running at about 40 frames a second, and your clock is at 980, so you're still getting really good
So we're still
clocks.
under ADC.
Still
See
under
that?
ADC.
Right.
Not quite hot yet. Wow. This is looking really good.
Yeah. Plus you got a zip line.
A zip line. And I
Everybody-
hear
everybody likes the zip line.
there is a bow.
I have it right there.
All right.
See it?
Now, are we giving any spoilers away by doing this?
I don't know.
All right, let's get in there.
I have no idea.
Let's kill some dudes.
I did accidentally, when we were trying to find a map to benchmark, I
You pulled it like one of the final maps?
I loaded up the map that was the final end of the
No,
game.
you
and I
did
was like,
not.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Did you do that live?
No.
Oh, that
no,
would've been better.
No, I didn't do it while
Okay,
I was
good.
live, so.
Good. But I see some helicopters have crashed, and there's a burned up water. The water looks
good.
great. Oh. Water looks
Like
good.
this without,
Checkpoint. Oh yeah, kill some dudes. Oh, are you a stealth guy?
You're always a stealth guy. Well, you have the option to be.
No, I'm like a get in there and kill people guy.
And
Oh, nice! I'm so glad this is you. But the key thing is we're still at 42 frames per second, all cranked up. We could obviously be running at much higher res while we're doing this, but again, for the stream, it is what it is. Oh, good job.
thank you.
Now,
See,
why
I got
don't you
one.
don't become visible when you shoot anymore? Because
So with the bow, you do not.
whoa,
That's why the bow is the
key.
big addition
The bow
to the
is
title,
key.
right? So we're getting there. We're hitting 80 a little bit.
yep. And our what's really interesting is that our temperature is again very, very stable between 79 and 80 degrees. Our clock is able to maintain 980. So we're above base clock, above boost clock, happily running Crisis 3 at 45, 46 frames per second, everything cranked up. God, it really does have great depth.
Yeah.
Is there a film effect I'm looking at here? Because I see that I think they've got some kind of,
It might.
yeah.
Could be our Sony.
No, I think it's actually a film effect. Oh, God rays, nice.
Oh yeah. Come on, every high quality PC game has those now.
Well, still looks
So we're still running at 980.
79 degrees. I think you're just going to stabilize here. I don't think it's going to get any hotter. Yeah, so I think the days of having to trade off performance and acoustics are over. I mean, we certainly think that acoustics are a big part of the GPU these days, and this shows it. This is great. Now you're at 80C and 980. Man. I like that
I
gun.
have no idea what's going on.
I like that gun.
I'm gonna go down here and probably die.
Nice.
That looks like it's.
I think we should go get there. Yeah. Can you get the gun that like the zapper? Oh yeah. You don't have it yet. You don't have it. All right. Oh, that's a good plan.
F to interact.
With
Yes.
the glyph.
All right.
Let's skip that.
All right.
All right.
Skip that.
There you go. Take his gun. Now let's kill some dudes. Behind you.
Oh.
Oh. Yes. That's a nice death right there. Do you see all the little fragments and pieces? Oh, can you blow away? Can you knock down the tree?
That's a good idea.
Can you knock the tree down?
I don't think so.
You can clip off branches for sure. Because that used to. Oh, I like the way the guts kind of spill out.
And it's not rated M because it's purple.
Oh, is that what it is?
The game is rated
I was
M,
gonna
but not
say.
because of that.
You're kidding me. That is a Kentucky wives' tale.
No.
That is not true. If
That's
you make
like
blood purple,
when the Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat came out, the blood was green, and so they were allowed to sell
I
it.
can't believe that.
So this is pretty good, but it seems like we have stabilized at 980,
Yeah, well, let's
and
go back.
we're not
and take a look.
overclocked or
No.
anything, right? So if we change over to, I'm probably going to end up dying just standing here, but hey,
Change over the other monitor.
it happens.
Oh, very nice. So you can see we are rocks, and this is what I tell you about temperature distribution. You're all over the map in the game, right? And what you're seeing, if you pull this up a little bit, you can see the frame rate down here.
I have to alt tab out.
Oh, okay, don't do it then. Okay.
Yeah.
So the frame rate's varying. Right now you're getting 50, but it's all up and down. The clock is actually very, very stable, right? It was running at around 993, and then it dipped down a little bit when we came out. But we're now, it's a very, very stable, high-performance experience. Now we could start playing with it, see what we can do, overclock a little bit, see if we can get to do something interesting. But to me, it is just rock solid stable at 900. So give it about 100 offset, and raise the power target maybe a little bit. 100, 110, maybe. Yeah, there you go, perfect. And then maybe raise max out the power target, maybe 85 on the temperature target. Click on linked.
95, maybe not.
95 it'll get a little hot. And 95 is right around where we start getting nervous about it.
Okay.
And so we
Does that
start.
look good?
I think so. Let's blast it.
All right. So our frame rate down here is now at 17.
But here,
That's because we're all tabbed out. Yeah.
We were
in the upper 50s. I think it's because I died.
Yeah, but
and
right here is where we were kind of stable. So 43, 44, and we were hovering around 40.
Let's give that a shot.
All right.
Let's see what happens.
So let's tab back in. And change your display. Back
see,
up.
we can actually see everything already coming
back
back in.
up.
And
Oh yeah, health critical.
hit enter. Okay.
All right, perfect. Switch out the nanosuit upgrades at any time. I've not. Oh yeah, perfect. Grab that. So now we're running 45 frames a second, and we're still cranking up. We're at 1097, overclocking nicely. So we raised the frequency by about 100 megahertz, which is exactly what the frequency offset was. And my guess is it's just going to be a rock star stable experience. The clock's going to stay pegged at that new clock. Now, what's interesting is on GPU Boost 1, we would have been moving the clock because we would have been regulating based on power instantly. So in this case, temperature has got a lot of inertia to it. It actually changes a lot slower than power does. So our clocks are not going to be dancing around as much as they used to. Yeah, man, the water really does look good. All right, you've got some dudes to the bottom right. Right there. Oh, that's the boss.
Oh, that's not good for me.
Yeah.
In our live stream.
Oh, boss man's going to kill you. 50 frames, 41 frames, so it really depends on what you're
That must
looking
be who killed me while we were looking at the
Yeah, he's the big boss guy, so you're not going to...
Not going to win.
Not unless you want to like sub in a serious gamer.
We don't have any of those here, Tom.
I don't know, man. I think I can do it. No, you're doing good. You're doing good. Nothing to be embarrassed about.
I love doing live gaming.
Nothing
It's
to be
amazing.
embarrassed about. You do have a whole nanosuit thing. Have you thought about what that might be helpful here with? Maybe invisible?
Well, he's already...
Oh!
Look at that.
Nice headshot.
What the...
There's some kind of like lizard thing that came out of his head.
Oh. Doesn't seem very fun.
Oh, yeah. You're about to die.
Health critical.
All right, dude. Let's
important?
tab back.
All right.
I know you're having fun. It's a great
right,
game.
all right,
I think it's going to do very well. I love the fact that it uses the GPU. It really does crank it up.
Anything that will
Yeah.
increase demand for higher end GPUs, I'm sure
You know
guys
what? And I also love the fact that we're the fastest.
All right.
That's pretty awesome.
So here's our frame rate. We've tabbed out now.
Back
So
over here,
here's we're in the
47,
upper
55, and we were
40s.
back. We should have froze it back. So it gained about 5 frames a second, roughly, is my guess, from the overclock that we did.
Okay.
And you can see the temperature was just pegged at 80. So even though we overclocked it, we never really got hot. So the fan stayed calm, and everything. It was just at its max clock up here at 1084 the whole time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so what that means is we could probably have turned down the fan if we wanted to, or we could have probably, cranked up the clock a little bit more.
Pretty cool.
GPU Boost 2.0, Titan.
Is that it? We got any more demos?
We could do the LED thing.
Oh, okay. Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we
See
mentioned
how this works with the lights.
Yeah, can we kill the lights so we can like see it?
Yeah, maybe just.
And bring in the handy cam.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you don't have a handy cam?
No.
Jesus Christ. All right, can we go back to the other screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome, delicious goodnesses. All right. And it's on the left and right. There it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to...
Right down there.
Right here. So EVGA actually has written a little application to take advantage of APIs.
I like this mood shot, by the way.
Yeah, this is nice. This is... Here, bring it in. Here. So there's this tool. And EVGA calls it LED controller. I hope they integrate it into Precision. I think they will. But let me just show you what you can do. You can say manual as an example. And right away, what you'll know, oops, not utilization, let's say manual. And then right away, I'm just going to set it down to be quick. And if I applied it correctly, whoa.
So there, yeah. Let's see if
it's now 0, but actually what I want to do is breathe. Okay, and I'm going to say breathe pretty quick. So what it's going to do is actually, you can see on the light now, it's kind of getting dim and then coming up. That's just showing you the range of the LED. And some people like their little PCs to kind of hum a little bit. So easily you can make the light go faster or slower. I'm sure they're still working on it, kind of tweaking it up, but it's pretty cool. And one thing we can also do is say, how about we set it to, I don't know, frame rate per second. And if you apply it, I think it's already there, and we run something. So let's go ahead and pick up Heaven. And I'm going to run Heaven, and I'm going to run it windowed, and maybe a slightly smaller frame, like 1600, so I can move it and run. Okay. So Heaven's coming up, and now what you'll see is the LEDs are going to be proportional to the frame rate. Huh. So that's kind of cool, right? Because you can get it be bright when it's running very fast, and then dim when it starts getting a little slower. And there's lots of different ways to think about it. So you can have your GPU actually giving you visual feedback to the performance utilization. Can you see it?
Yep.
So it's kind of changing a little bit as the frame rate comes up and down. We're at 56 frames per second right now, which is just about fully lit. But, you know, 80 frames per second, a little brighter. And maybe we get to a scene where it's a little bit dimmer. You can see it like dim down. Maybe it's not enough variation on the frame rate.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, I'll turn up tessellation. All the way, was that down or up?
That's right. You can move scale,
factor. That'll knock the frame rate down a little bit, and distance. Okay, so now we're down to 30, and you can see the thing dim down a little bit. And then if I lower the factor, brightens up again. Pretty cool. See, so it's a pretty cool little feature, and it works with 690 and Titan, and it's a technology that's available through third-party APIs.
Okay.
Cool, huh?
We're going to get our
lighting back on.
Switched back on.
Okay, hit me escape there. Excellent. So let's hear some questions.
All right, we've got several to go through. Where did they go? Here we are. Well, this one's not a question. It says he couldn't get the chat to work, but he votes inverted. Ken, what's the summary?
It was pretty split.
Pretty
Wow.
split. And I'm guessing if I were to stereotype.
Oh my God! You're not going to call it old men, or
if I were to stereotype, it'd be all the young whippersnappers that do non-inverted. You're just a young whippersnapper.
Is that right? Old people do inverted.
Well, it's just you have this legacy of using only inverted controls. They're inverted controls on arrow keys.
Airplanes.
Yeah, for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The very first, things that were out there that I could play on a PC.
You know, I remember a game I was playing back in when I was just my very first job, and I don't remember what it's called, but it had like pyramids and balls, and you would fly your first-person view through that.
Yeah.
I don't, but yeah, that's where I got and that was not inverted.
Any information on how Titan would perform compared to other cards in folding at home?
I think it's going to be
GTX Jack Bauer.
I would expect it to do very well at folding at home. I don't have data on that. Do you guys do folding?
We haven't for this one.
Did Kyle do folding? Because
I don't know.
Yeah, you might want to check out. I don't know if Kyle did it, but he usually does do some folding.
Okay.
So check out Hard OCP. I'm sure somebody did folding at home testing, but I'm not aware.
Sometimes when there's a new launch, the client isn't updated to use the new card. I don't know if maybe that's the case for this.
Not sure. I'll take an action to follow up on that.
You do that.
I'm going to take an action.
Right. Anything else maybe you want to highlight or say before we
Well, I'd like to say
up?
a belated happy birthday, to your lovely wife.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't get to be here for that. I understand it was quite a soiree.
It was a good party at a country bar that I don't really subscribe to.
Country bar in Kentucky. Sounds like it was fun.
Yeah.
And I also want to shout out to Tracy. I hope to see you soon. And thank you, Ryan, for doing this.
I really appreciate you coming out to the freezing cold weather of
God,
Cincinnati.
it is freaking, it's like 17 degrees.
It was when you landed last night. I know that much. So
Really frickin'.
check out our review at PCPro.com of the GeForce GTX Titan. Figure out if it's a card you want. It's going to be available.
Gold Award.
It's going to be available March.
It's going to be in the channel February 25th. So after we enable the board partners, it's Chinese New Year's right now, so you know there's a little bit of delay, but they'll be available.
There was one other question. Will it be available in the normal channels, Newegg, Amazon, that kind of stuff?
Yes, it will.
Through certain partners?
It'll be available in North America through Asus and EVGA.
Okay.
Just like 690.
Very similar to the 690
Very similar to 690. And it'll be available in all the normal channels, a lot through system builders, but also a lot through ETL and retail. One last thing I do want to say is that we do have good availability. It's not a kind of like
7 of these to sell?
We have. Thanks, Ryan. We have a good volume. You know,
Okay.
we've already ramped GK110, so it's not a GPU constrained environment. So you will see reasonably good volume, and it's not going to be low thousands. It'll be many devices.
Okay. So check out our review at PCPro.com if you haven't already. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out at the live stream. We have other live streams coming up. We have some game streams coming up. We have our podcast every Wednesday. We do Twitch on Thursdays. That's today, so I have another stream that we'll be doing
you gotta do Twitch?
later tonight.
Wow.
So that's
What's the topic for
really
Twitch?
looking forward to that. Well, we covered the news of the week, so it's a week.
So it's all about Titan.
So that will be a part of it, if nothing else, I guess we can say. So thanks for everybody for hanging out in the chat room,
Thanks, everybody.
and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and thanks for having me.
No problem.